Hi, everyone. This is Heather Lottinen from the Flourish.Academy. I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Mara Chick.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Okay, we're diving into a new book today.
Ooh.
Do you want to share what book we're looking at?
This is one of my this might be my new favorite book. This is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. I love this book. I brought this book to Heather this year. I read this and devoured this in like a day, and I was like, okay, Heather needs to read this. And then you just
loved it
attacked
as well.
it too.
Yeah, so when you sent it to me, that was maybe a few months ago, I love the title. And it says, Dynamic Techniques for Turning Fear, Indecision, and Anger into Power, Action, and Love. I devoured it as well. I marked it up like crazy. We actually used it in our mastermind group because it's such a powerful book. Love it.
So have you overcome any fears recently?
Oh,
before we get started,
I have.
Go ahead. Oh.
So I finished wrapping up the recordings of my productivity course, and I did it a little bit differently than I've done before. I had a different setup here in the studio. I used a teleprompter. I had scripted things. And
aren't you fancy?
It sounds fancy, but I had no clue what I was doing. And so I was kind of afraid of that next level, of taking it to the next level. But with the help of our producer, I did it. And we love it. It looks great. So I'm really proud of that. So if you want to check out the productivity course, it's going to be available. So we'll leave the link in the show notes. But I'm really proud of it. I am.
Awesome.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
I know that's something you've been working on
It's a big deal
for a while. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to jump in straight to the book. Now, Heather, do you want to take us? So what Susan does here, and this, I mean, honestly, you guys got to read this book. This is like the most amazing book. But she talks about level of fears.
Yeah, she says fear can be broken down into 3 levels. The first level is the surface story, such as the ones described below. I'll come back to that. This level of fear can be divided into 2 types, those that happen and those that require action. Here's a partial list. So things like becoming disabled, retirement, being alone, children leaving home, natural disasters, loss of financial security, change, ending a relationship, making friends, and it goes on, losing weight, driving, level 1 fears. My 16-year-old has a level 1 fear right now. And
level 2 fears are not situation oriented. They involve the ego. So those are things like rejection, success, failure, being vulnerable, helplessness, disapproval, loss of image. Level 2 fears have to do with inner states of mind rather than exterior situations. They reflect your sense of self and your ability to handle this world.
And level 3 gets down to the nitty-gritty of the issue, the biggest fear of all, the one that really keeps you stuck. And then she says, are you ready? At the bottom of every one of your fears is simply the fear that you can't handle whatever life may bring you. So everything you just described and I described translates to level 3, which I can't handle it. And so she's going to talk throughout the book about how you can handle it. In fact, she says on page 8, if you knew you could handle anything that came your way, what would you possibly have to fear?
The answer is nothing.
Nothing.
She says that, not me. Not me. That is not for me. She goes on to say on page 8, all you have to do is to diminish your fear is to develop more trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Every time you feel afraid, remind yourself that it is simply because you are not feeling good enough about yourself. Then proceed to use one or more of the tools in this book to help build yourself up. I know that some fear is instinctual and healthy and keeps us alert to trouble. The rest, the part that holds us back from personal growth, is inappropriate and destructive and perhaps can be blamed on our conditioning.
Okay, I love this because what she's getting into is it's just the way we were taught and raised all of our lives to have fear. She goes on to say, in all my life, I have never heard a mother call out to her child as he or she goes off to school, take a lot of risks today, darling. She is more likely to convey to her child, be careful, darling. This quote, be careful, carries with it a double message. The world is really dangerous out there, and you won't be able to handle it. What mom is really saying, of course, is if something happens to you, I won't be able to handle it. You see, she is only passing on her lack of trust in her ability to handle what comes her way.
Would you ever say to your daughter, be risky today?
Okay, I'm going to now. And I am careful with how I frame things because you're sending a message. If you say be careful, you're sending a message that whatever they're about to do, there's something wrong with it or dangerous, inherently dangerous. So I had never, like many things we read, it makes sense, but you just don't realize it until you hear someone articulate it like that. So now I'm going to start saying to them, I'll see you later. Take a lot of risks today. I do say to them, make sure you fail at something today or this week. Make sure, we learned that from a
we've
previous
talked
book.
about that, yeah.
So I'm into the failure. So now I have to be into the risky. You know what else I heard recently? I forget where, because we read so many books, but the author said, would you rather your kids be safe or strong?
Ooh.
So I say strong, because then you can teach them to handle whatever comes their way. So of course you want your children to be safe, of course. But wouldn't you more so want them to be strong so they can handle it, which means they have to struggle.
Okay, how are you going to do this? Because you label yourself as risk averse.
I know.
And you say that all the time, and I think they know that about you. So what are you going to do when they throw it back in your face? Oh, what risks are you going to take today, Mom?
You know what? This is good.
And
you're helping me. Yeah.
I am.
Yeah,
I'm going to coach you.
Yeah, thank you.
You just sit there.
I wouldn't have thought of that, but you're right. I'm going to have to find ways to, because I don't fear failure. I don't. But I am risk averse. So I need to really work on that. It's something I need to be aware of, and I need to stop saying it.
Yeah.
Because I do say it a lot. I need to say I can handle whatever risk. But I mean, I'm not going to take stupid risks like jump off a building, my risks are like
Really?
like related to business,
Yeah.
Or something that I want to do. That was really good. That's a good question, because my 16-year-old will absolutely throw that back in my face. She's very good at coaching me. And I say, don't.
I say that to you too when I'm having a bad day. And one time I walked in and it was raining. I had spent an hour curling my hair and the rain ruined it. And I'm all huffy and puffy when I walk in. And Heather's like, oh, she could tell something was wrong right away. And I looked at her and I said, don't coach me. Right now, I don't want to be coached. I have to be in this moment right now. Don't coach me and tell me how to get over this in 2.3 seconds. I don't want to hear it. And she was like, okay.
I actually physically started to walk backwards. Is what happened. I started to walk backwards and I put my arms up and it was like I surrender.
Okay. Don't talk tomorrow for another half hour.
But the point is, what we want to do, wrapping up chapter 1, is we want to get to the point where we say, whatever happens to me in any situation, I can handle it. In fact, I wrote in the margin, I can handle anything. So instead of being afraid and avoiding things, say, okay, I can handle it. I'll be able to handle it, which is a great attitude to have all the way around.
Okay, we're going to move straight into chapter 2, and Susan starts to talk about the 5 truths. And so we're going to go through those right now. Okay, truth 1, the fear will never go away as long as I continue to grow. She says, as long as I continue to push out into the world, as long as I continue to stretch my capabilities, as long as I continued to take new risks in making my dreams come true, I was going to experience fear. What a revelation. And I have to tell you, I feel fear every day. I mean, it's not something that goes away. And when you're working on bigger and bigger and bigger things and you're putting yourself out there all the time, you are always going to feel some level of fear, whether that's fear, failure, rejection, whatever it is. Like, oh, am I good enough to do this? And we all experienced that when we started our photography careers. Like, oh, what are they going to think if I put myself out there?
Or a podcast.
Yeah, what were we thinking?
But you and I both, it sounds cliche because it's the title of the book, but we honestly have been feeling a lot of fear and doing it anyway. We have.
Yeah.
Or we wouldn't have never done this.
Nope, I'd still be sleeping right now.
Yeah.
Because you make me get up early. But anyway, truth 2. The only way to get rid of the fear of doing something is to go out and do it. Fear of particular situations dissolved when I finally confronted them. The doing it comes before the fear goes away. So I see this every day in my photo shoots. People always say, oh, I'm so afraid I can't do this. I can't do a boudoir shoot. What are you talking? I can't take my clothes off in front of someone I don't know. And I always say, it just takes a leap of faith to book a shoot. The fear doesn't go away when you book. The fear goes away when you actually come and do it. Like, you're gonna fearful and afraid and nervous and all those things. So, and then the confidence comes afterwards,
Yes.
right? Because
Yeah.
once you go through something, you're like, I was so afraid, but I did it.
Yes.
And then like you just go to the next level because
Yes.
the confidence in yourself.
That's
raises
and
up,
that,
yeah.
you know, we talked about this in one of the last episodes about exposure therapy with the tarantula. It's the same thing. Like, expose yourself to that which you fear, and you realize, number one, you're not going to die. It's not so bad. And then you get a boost of confidence, which helps your self-esteem.
Yeah. You need help with that. Don't
Yeah,
you? No.
for sure.
Truth. Okay. Truth number 3. The only way to feel better about myself is to go out and do it. The doing it comes before the feeling better about yourself. When you make something happen, not only does the fear of the situation go away, but you also get a big bonus. You do a lot toward building your self-confidence, which is
what we just said.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could have written this book,
I know.
Susan Jeffers. What are you talking about?
Doesn't that always happen?
Yes.
Like, it gets almost
I'm reading
frustrating.
a book. I'm like, wait, I just
say
said that.
Yeah, I say that.
Why
all the
can't
time.
I write it eloquently and put it in a book?
You're
like
actually
this?
a very good writer, so I wouldn't be
know.
able to, but you could do it. You could write it. In fact, I expect something in the next at least year or two, a book from you. Okay, let's move on to
No. Okay, nice try, but okay, go ahead. You can move to the next fear.
Truth 4. Not only am I going to experience fear whenever I'm on unfamiliar territory, but so is everyone else. I said to myself, you mean all those people out there that I've been envying because they're not afraid to move ahead with their lives have really been afraid? Why didn't somebody tell me? I guess I never asked. I was sure I was the only person out there feeling so inadequate. It was such a relief to realize I was not alone in this. So I mean, you're not the only person to be afraid.
Yeah.
Why do we do that? We think because we just think of ourselves?
Yeah, we're so singular focused.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be afraid when I would sign up for workshops or something, and I'm going to a conference in Boston next month, and I know nobody. It's become a body positive certified instructor, and I'm real excited about it. I know nobody. And that kind of thing used to scare the living daylights out of me, to go somewhere in an area I'm not familiar with to a group of people I have no idea who you are and just start to learn and meet people and mingle. It literally would stop me from signing up for things. And workshops used to scare the crap out of me because I'm like, who am I?
Yeah.
I'm a lowly photographer.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a lowly self-love life coach, you know? But everyone else feels that. I'm pretty sure that there are probably 5 other people, you know, in that workshop, or 10 people in this conference coming up that are like, I'm so afraid to go. And so when you start to think in terms of everyone else, then you realize you're not alone in this. And that's we want to be part of a community.
Yes.
So,
And that it's common. Your
Yes.
feelings aren't unique. Right?
Yes.
Truth 5. Pushing through fear is less frightening than living with the underlying fear that comes from a feeling of helplessness. I know it's hard to take in at first. It says that no matter how secure any of us feel in the little cocoon we have built for ourselves, we live consciously or unconsciously with the fear that the day of reckoning will eventually come.
Whew.
This is pretty heavy. I'm going to read that again because she's right.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to take in. Pushing through the fear is less frightening than living with the underlying fear that comes from a feeling of helplessness. Like feeling like there's no way I could ever handle that if that happened. That helplessness will hold you back in every area of your life and is much, much worse and more insidious than the fear of just doing it.
Insidious. That's a big word.
Yeah, thanks. Sometimes I sit around and read the thesaurus. Yeah. Because you don't realize it because it's underlined.
Yeah.
So she's saying pushing through the fear is actually easier, less frightening than living with that underlying truth. And I thought that one was very powerful.
Yes. And she says here, and you know, we've talked about these 5 truths. She says a first step in retraining your thinking is to say the fear truths at least 10 times a day for the next month. Don't worry, that's not your strategy after this episode. But as you will shortly discover, retraining faulty thinking takes constant repetition. Knowing the fear truths is not enough. You have to keep feeding them to yourself until they become part of your being, until you start to reverse your behavior and move toward your desired goals rather than retreating, because we retreat instead of
face it. For sure.
and move forward. So
do you ever, when you read that in a book, like, you need to repeat these things? How many times did she say we needed to repeat?
10. Wait,
a
what
day?
did she say?
10 times a day?
She said 10 times a day for the next month.
That's
She puts them on a nice list on page 22. So
that's a commitment, though. Have you ever? Okay, so when you read stuff like that, my question was, do you actually follow through and do it?
No.
Me either.
And here we are telling people you should do this, but the thing is that we read these things, we agree with them, and then I journal about them. So I think I take it in a different way, and I do what works for me. You do what works for you. I mean, saying it out loud or to yourself 10 times a day for a month is what someone may need. But some of these things, like, we know, they're kind of ingrained in us, don't you think? Like, I think,
do. Yeah. I mean, common knowledge, but not common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, wait, common sense, not common practice.
Yeah.
Not common practice. So when I read stuff like that, I'll say them out loud a couple times, like right then when I'm reading it, but I don't ever follow through and repeat it unless it's something that really, really resonates with me or something that I am struggling with. So I guess if this is something someone struggles with, then they should read these.
Yeah, if you're really like fearful and afraid of things, like I would, because clearly she's a doctor. It says PhD.
That's got to mean something.
Susan Jeffers, PhD. So I think she knows what she's talking about. So if you're really, really struggling with fear, I would do what she says.
Also, we should note that this book has indeed stood the test of time because this.
Oh yeah.
This is originally written in 1987 and is still extremely popular.
I mean, I love this book.
Yeah.
I mean, this is so amazing. So, your strategy.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yes.
I want you to write down your top 3 fears. Okay.
We need to do this as well, don't you think?
Okay, sure. And and then I want you to write down one action you can take for each of those fears that is going to get you towards dealing with that. So what's the action that you can just step out and push yourself further, because you're going to get that confidence when you start to take those actions. So we're going to, maybe next episode we'll share our 3s.
Oh, good idea.
And then
good idea. Because I'm sitting here trying to think of something.
What are your 3? What?
I don't know what they are, but I'll tell you what happened recently that I got over, which was the recording of the course. I had never scripted a course before. I do much better on video, just kind of off the cuff. You know, in speaking engagements, I write them. But in this case, I scripted it and I used the teleprompter. I did not know how to do that. I had never done that. And the first time so the way to get through it is to do it, obviously, because now I can say, I can use a teleprompter, or I know how it works and I'm familiar with it and I'm comfortable with it. So I don't have that fear anymore. So I know that the best thing to do is actually do what you're afraid of. If you're afraid, I am not, but if you are afraid of public speaking, then the best thing to do is go speak somewhere, even if it's in front of a couple of people, to do something, okay, I do have a fear that I don't even want to deal with. I just thought of it, literally.
Okay, lay it on me.
I learned a couple years ago, I did not know this about myself. I'll tell you the story quick. We were in Hershey Park and we got on the Ferris wheel, and it's giant and it goes really high. And we get to the top and my palms start feeling funny. And I'm like, that's strange. My palms are sweating? That's odd. And I looked at Craig and I said, I think I'm afraid of heights. but I had been on high things before and never had an issue. So I think I'm afraid of heights. And I've never had that. I don't know where it came from. And I don't care to fix it.
Okay, it's time to go skydiving.
Oh my God. Okay, could we, all right.
No, I wanted to take you to indoor skydiving.
Yes, start smaller.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
A little smaller.
The one thing when you were talking about, like, you just kind of got on the teleprompter and did it. And, when we start to do these things that we're afraid of, it inoculates us to the fear. And we're kind of like, there wasn't really anything to be afraid of.
Correct.
So
what's the big deal?
Yeah. I have a big fear of rejection and, failure. I come from a successful business family, so that adds extra pressure to me. Some people are like, oh, that's great. And you have all this background and these people built these businesses. And I'm like, yeah, it's great, but they ain't giving me any money. And I now have to live up to their expectations of, oh, she built a business. And I mean, I'm doing great, but that's always in the back of my head.
Right.
So I just got to push through, and I'm confident in what I do, and the businesses that I run, and I know that I do well for myself. So
There's just that little
it's just
piece.
a little
Yeah.
piece that like I can't quite turn off yet.
Yeah.
And I'll get there.
Yeah, you will.
So as we wrap up today, can I take a moment?
Yeah, of course.
Is there anything you wanted to say before I I wrap up? Go ahead.
You were saying about, having a little piece of worry about people accepting you or being enough. So I read recently to say to yourself repeatedly or put on your mirror, I am enough. I am enough. And that's something that we could all stand to say out loud multiple times a day.
That's what, we're talking about that in my self-love club. We just did a whole event on like why we feel like we're not enough, and one of the big things that came up was comparison, like where there's a lot of comparison, but we're coming up with some like affirmations that we can say daily, and the first thing everyone's going to say in their affirmation, I'm making them say it, is I am enough.
Perfect. So yeah, good. Okay, yes.
Okay, just to wrap up, if you listen to, what was that, episode 29, you heard about my tragedy with my mother. And I just wanted to take a second to thank everybody that reached out to me. I got so many messages on Facebook and comments on the blog post. And when we posted it on Facebook, I was overwhelmed. I have noticed that a lot of people actually have lost parents quite suddenly. And something you don't realize that like other people are struggling with this. So people have asked how I'm doing. I still don't know how to answer that question. I'm trying not to cry right now because we have other episodes
we need to get to. Right.
But I'm struggling. It's hard for me to get out of bed every day. I just kind of want to lay there. I know that my mom wouldn't want me to, just lay around, but it's really hard when you feel like the joy is gone. Like, she brought so much love and happiness to my life. She was so funny, had a great sense of humor. I just shared on Facebook recently that she got me a pink onesie as a bridal shower gift, like think Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Right.
And like, it was hysterical. And I just I love that I have that moment captured. Like she just came over, hugged me, and we were laughing. I still have that pink onesie. So, I'm focused on the next step every day. I'm not even focused on today. I'm focused on what do I need to get through next. And right now it's the podcast. Right. So I'm going to get through podcast recording. But what keeps hitting me, and I want to share this with everybody that has lost a loved one like this. How lucky are we to have loved someone so much that it hurts this bad when they're gone? And I am lucky to have loved someone like this. And I cherish the times we had together. I really, really do. But I'm not discouraged from loving someone like that again.
Good.
I don't, it hurts because I loved so hard, and I'll take that right now. So
very well said.
That's how I'm doing. So thanks everybody for all your well wishes and prayers. It really means a lot to me. I'm very thankful for this community. Thankful for you too.
Thank you. Thank you. There was an outpouring of love for sure.
There was. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Flourish Academy podcast.